Nick Saban do at Alabama? 5 championships, 11 years. The revolving door as coordinators. How do you explain that?
No complacency. He does not let complacency exist. From the trainers to the coaches to the players to the administratively, there's no complacency. And again, they have a standard, and nobody's coming. If you're in that organization, there's nobody coming off that standard, and they're relentless in the pursuit of it.
It's hard to see progress when you're losing, but since that North Texas game, how have you seen this Arkansas team get better despite the loss to Auburn and Texas A&M?
I have seen progress. And again, if you go back to the Auburn game, there was a point in time there where that game was just a 2-score game. Arkansas was driving the ball. They were moving the football a couple of different times, stubbed their toe, turned the ball over. That happened twice. One was a pick six, the kickoff return for a touchdown. So there's little things like that are creeping up, but there are some positives. I thought the defense harassed Jared Stidham all night long. The defense is playing very, very hard. So, there's small victories that you can see. You saw it last week. Anytime you can start a game down 17-0, and work your way back so that on the last possession of the game you got a chance to tie the game, that's progress. I don't care how you slice it. And Texas A&M is an exponentially better team than they were last year. So I thought that was another step in the right direction.
How well do you know John Chavis?
I know Chief fairly well.
What do you think about his career and the fact, he's moved around the SEC a lot, but he always seems to do pretty well wherever he goes?
Yeah, he does. He does well. And again, he's a product of a guy that, it's experience. He's got great experience in the league, starting from back in Tennessee to LSU to A&M. This is probably his 4th, maybe even more stop that I don't realize. But, experience is everything, particularly in this league. And, I think he's a guy that doesn't panic. He does what he does. He recruits to fit what he does. And he'll get better at that, in terms of recruiting what fits his style. But he's just one of those guys that, has a lot of longevity in the league and a lot of respect from all the offensive coordinators in the league as well.
You mentioned it up here, but just the stuff that Tua brings to this team that makes Alabama almost unbeatable.
Yeah, he is incredibly accurate. He's got just poise. He's got it. I've had 5 first-round quarterbacks that have been on my teams through the years. He's got all of the same type of elements that I see in some of those other guys. The other thing he does that really is different than probably Alabama's had is he puts the ball in places that gives his wide receivers a chance to make plays with the ball in their hands. It's one thing if a guy has to reach behind him and he makes a catch. These guys are catching the ball on the run, full stride, and it really gives them an opportunity to get yards after catch, and that's what you're seeing right now.
Talking about quarterbacks, now that that Chad Morris has really settled on Ty Story, how much do you think that's going to benefit this offense, not having that ping-pong game between Cole Kelly and Ty Story?
Well, I think anytime you can not have the back and forth with quarterbacks, obviously that's better. But again, Ty is going to have to show improvement. He's going to have to show that he's getting a grasp week by week of the offense. And, he's a young guy. And look, they may have to go back to the other guy at some point if things aren't going well. But I was glad to see that Chad settled on one guy. I don't know what it looks like in practice every day, but he made the decision for a reason, because he feels like that guy gives him the best chance to win. And every fan base should want one guy to be the guy, because it gives you continuity. There's timing issues. There's just command presence of them in the huddle and what they bring. And the other players around them, the other 10 need to have that and see that.
What do you remember about that? I think it was 65-43 game you guys had with Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was over 100 points. It wasn't overtime.
That was crazy. We couldn't stop each other. I remember that. It was an exciting game. If you like offense, I wasn't excited about it because I'm a defensive guy. But yeah, that was one of the better offensive games between the two.
What kind of perspective do you get on this game now, being out of it for a little bit, and as you sit there and an analyst on a weekly basis?
It's a perspective that's a little different because I don't have anything on the line, and I can really sit back and reflect. When I look at things and games unfold and seasons unfold and coaches' careers unfold, when you don't have any skin in the game and you can really reflect objectively and look and see things, I do think that I see things sometimes a little clearer. When you're in the grind as a coach, you don't look and see what other coaches, other teams, you're never in that mode. You're always looking at what am I doing now? What's happening today? And not having to do that definitely lets me have a clearer perspective on the reality of the game and not necessarily the perception, if that makes any sense.
What do you see impeding the Arkansas offense when you've looked them over?
Well, turnovers, sacks. I mean, they've given up 14 sacks right now. That's 13th in the league. So they got to, and look, it's not all the offensive line. It's everybody. Sometimes it's a quarterback not making quick decisions. Sometimes it's the tailbacks in protection. Sometimes it's the offensive line getting beat or setting to the wrong guy. But, it's pressure on the quarterback. Ty Story in the Auburn game, I bet you I counted 8 to 10 times he was on the ground in the first half. That didn't necessarily turn into a sack. What that turns into is, as the game unfolds, it turns into a beatdown. So, there's pressure issues there with the quarterback. Sometimes there's accuracy issues. There's definitely turnover issues. But it's everything. And you can't pin it on one thing. The whole offense collectively, needs to be more in sync, and that's what I see.
That coaches studio thing you guys did with the Florida State, Virginia Tech,
Right.
it was very fun to watch. What
Right.
do you think of that format and doing those things?
I love them. ESPN really enjoys them, and they want to do more of them. We do them for the national championship game. We do them for the semifinal game. I think it's a really good look behind the scenes at coaches diagnosing and breaking down the games. We have fun doing them, but I think the football junkies, the ones that really love it, they love diving into those as well.
You know Chad Morris very well. Have you been able to spend much time with him or
With
talk with Chad Morris?
I don't know him very well. I know him well enough, but no, I don't know him very well.
Do you think he's got a realistic shot to make Arkansas an SEC contender?
I think so. I think that he's a brilliant offensive mind. He's really good at that. I think that, like I said earlier, I think that they've got to be solid at the quarterback position. And I'm not saying that any of these young guys can't be, but eventually they got to be very solid at the quarterback position. And he's got to recruit to a standard and evaluate players that fit what he does. And he's got good pieces in place in terms of coaching. Guys, like we talked about with Chief, it's got some experience in the league, and it's going to allow him to have a chance to be successful. We'll see 3 or 4 years from now, but I think he's got all the ingredients in place.